there's an opportunity for us to be more graceful with those around us too. But I am curious what happens when that pragmatism is very tough to shake, where maybe sometimes you are in a relationship or a situation that's actually quite dangerous.
I think that's why you have to understand almost the genre of this parable. That Jesus he's not giving you advice. He's not giving you anything practical to use here. He's not addressing any of those very real questions that you're asking right now. He's trying to tell you a fairy tale about what the world could be and how you can slowly aspire towards that. Now, in practical life, we do have to deal with those kinds of things. And there's other moments where Jesus deals with those type of things, right? There's passages where Jesus talks about making boundaries when people say bad things about you, and then they do bad things to you, and you step back from them, but you continue to love them. But you're not chasing after them the same way he's talking in this parable. And that's why we have to sort of situate these things. We have to understand this parable. This isn't the real world. It's not like the Good Samaritan. But this is about, I have this imagination for what the world could be one day. And then I'm going to lead into that as much as I can as possible. I'm still going to look after myself. I'm still going to care for the people around me. I'm still going to interact, not as if it's a fairy tale, but if it's the real world. But those kind of imagination expanding stories need to always exist somewhere in our mind. Because if we always live in the pragmatics and we always live in the, okay, but here's the line, then we'll never push ourselves that little bit farther. And I think the way that these things interact is you'll get very practical teaching from Jesus and you'll get these aspirational teachings from Jesus. And I think what he's trying to tell us is, okay, be pragmatic, but always go just that little bit 1 inch farther. And keep that imagination in your mind, push it a little bit farther. And if you can keep doing that, like I said, and you stack that up over a lifetime, you'll find yourself in a very different place. But none of this overrules real, hard, healthy decisions about relationships in the real world. It's a bigger imagination of what the world could be one day and how we're going to continue dreaming and moving in that direction. And those things you have to balance them together. Because again, you take one parable, if you stretch it too far, if you try to live in that parable, but not in the rest of Jesus' teachings, well, then you're going to find yourself at a cliff's edge. But this parable in conversation with all those other things, I think becomes really important. So, thoughts?
Maybe I'll say one piece. I was actually just thinking about this earlier. I mean, I've heard this sermon already today, and I was thinking about how Jesus can be a bit tricky to listen to, for lack of better language, because there's ways in which he is so aspirational, sort of calls us way beyond the scope of where we currently think and feel in the world. On some things. And then there's other things where Jesus' justice orientation is so pragmatic and so challenging. And I think maybe that's my invitation in your question, is to say, I don't know if I should ever find myself disengaged from either of these impulses that Christ says, come follow me, come be like me in the world, come try this way of being human. And we will find, not that we're so aspirational that we don't ever accomplish anything, and not so committed to a particular way of being that we don't ever dream, and we'll lose our imagination. So anyways, I was actually thinking about that actual language. Christ is so pragmatic sometimes, and then other times he just says, hey, imagine if the world was different. And we have to take all of that. Anyway.
No, I like that. I think pragmatism without a dream behind it kind of stays in its place all the time. Yeah. And so he's pushing us to hold those together. Let's take one text and then we'll head out.
Yeah, we've got a text here. Okay. Could you take some time to explain the last section a little bit, the part about heaven and the unrepentant?
Yeah, again, this is a great question. Is there really 99% of the people that don't need to repent? No, that contradicts other parts in the Bible, right? So we have to understand parables in their context and genre. Jesus is making a hyperbolic contrast between the person who returns and the person who's already close to God. So again, if you stretch this and you take this parable and you say, okay, that's the real world, 99% of us don't even need to repent. Well, no, we all need to repent. We're all the lost sheep. And sometimes we're all the 99 that are stuck at home, enjoying that space and not wanting the other one to come back. So you're absolutely right to point this out, that to take this at face value and to understand it literally is going to contradict other things that Jesus says. But that's what understanding genre has to do for us, right? This is the context of parable, where words are hyperbolic because they're meant to pull together two contrasts. Remember we talked about that parabole, You pull two things together, you place them alongside. Well, some of the way to make that contrast is to make them outsized and hyperbolic. So that's all he's doing here. And as a general rule, when you're reading a parable, understand those are not precise theological statements. They are calling you to understand two contrasting ideas. And sometimes Jesus is going to use outsized language to do that. So great question.